Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today I'm doing my updated prediction for the 2025 governor's election predictions. There are only two up in 2025, but they are very important and are going to be getting a lot of national media attention in the next few months. So these are two states that are up, Virginia and New Jersey. Now the way these elections typically go is they're usually a referendum on the job of the current president in office. Basically that means essentially that the party that's usually not in the White House usually does well in these governor's elections. Now, it doesn't always 100% work out that way, but the vast majority of times it usually does. So if you want to look back at the governor election results, for instance, in 2021, this was President Joe Biden. The state of Virginia ended up going Republican for Republican Glenn Youngkin by 1.9%. New Jersey, which is usually more of a solid Democratic state at the time, voted for the Democratic governor by only 3.2% in a very close race. Back in 2017, this was President Trump's first term. In this election and this one, Virginia voted for the Democrat Ralph Northam by about 9 points. New Jersey voted for the Democrat Phil Murphy by about 14 points. This is also after 4 years of Governor Chris Christie. Now, back in 2013, a little bit of a special case here, where this was after President Obama got reelected to a second term. The state of New Jersey, Chris Christie got reelected by 22 points. In the state of Virginia, Democrat Terry McAuliffe, however, was able to win against Republican Ken Cuccinelli, though there was a third-party candidate that did get about 6.5% of the vote. So had that third-party candidate not been in the race, it likely would have been probably a different story, where Cuccinelli would have very likely narrowly won, given how McAuliffe did against Glenn Youngkin in 2021 in a similar election environment. I would assume Cuccinelli would end up winning that. But again, you could argue whether that's fair or not for McAuliffe on that one. So that's how these elections usually go. So first, I'm going to break down really quickly these two races and what's the situation in both of them. Starting with the state of Virginia, where right now we have the two candidates set in between Republican Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears and U.S. Representative Abigail Spanberger. Now, they are both the Republican and Democratic nominees in this race, and as the early polling showed, Abigail Spanberger has had a pretty consistent lead over Winsome Sears very early on in these races, and it hasn't been by a small amount. A most recent poll from Wick Insights in between July 9th and 11th showed Abigail Spanberger leading over Winsome Sears by about 10%, with 8% of the vote undecided. Meaning if Abigail Spanberger won 0 of that undecided vote, she would still have enough support to win this race. And obviously that's likely not going to happen. Virginia Commonwealth University poll showed Spanberger leading 49-37 over Sears with 12% undecided. A Republican-aligned coefficient poll showed Spanberger leading by 3 points over Sears with 9% undecided. That poll seems to be the biggest outlier in the race so far. So Spanberger is certainly starting out with a pretty clear lead in this race. And the prediction sites agree. Cook Political Report currently has it listed as lean for the Democrats. Inside Elections has it as tilt for the Democrats. Sablo Crystal Ball has it as lean. And Race to the White House has it as likely. Now, as I mentioned, in 2017, which was the governor elections after President Trump became president, Virginia voted for the Democrat Ralph Northam over the Republican Ed Gillespie by about 8.9%. And we actually have the detailed results here as well for 2017, where Northam defeated Gillespie. And you see Virginia, a lot of key areas with really big Democratic margins. Up in the D.C. suburbs, Loudoun County was a 20-point win. Prince William was about a 22-point win, and Fairfax was about a 36-point win. These are very big areas, and Ralph Northam ran up the numbers very strongly against Gillespie in this race. Also worth noting, Northam did very well in the Virginia Beach area. This is a key swing area in Virginia that if the Republicans are winning the governor's race, Virginia Beach likely will be red. And Northam won here against Gillespie by about 5 points. Whereas if you look at the 2021 Virginia governor election where Glenn Youngkin won, you see smaller margins in Loudoun County, only about an 11-point difference there for McAuliffe. Prince William was about 15, Fairfax still about 30 points or so. But Virginia Beach was going red by 8 points, Chesapeake going red by 6, and we also see some other smaller counties as well where Youngkin did well pretty much everywhere. So basically you're watching the 2021 map and 2017 map, and you're looking at this election and saying, well, which one is the race in 2025 closest to? And right now, every indication, the 2017 map seems to be how it's going right now. So for the state of Virginia, my current prediction at this time is Abigail Spanberger wins in the likely Democratic category. This would be anywhere from 5 to 15%. I currently have it being just a bit under double digits, around 9.5% at this point in time, but I think it's very possible this one could even break 10 points and get into the double digits. I do think it goes 9.5% for Spanberger over Sears right now. Now we have the state of New Jersey. New Jersey, I would argue, is the more competitive of the two governor's elections this cycle, due to the fact that in 2021, it was a very close race between Democratic Governor Phil Murphy and Republican candidate Jack Ciattarelli. Now, Ciattarelli is running again in this race, and he is going to be the Republican nominee against Democrat Congresswoman Mikie Sherrill. And this is going to be a very close race from all indications. The early polling has shown a pretty tight race between Sherrill and Ciattarelli, though Sherrill does seem to have a bit of a polling lead looking at the respective polls. The most recent poll from StimSat Research shows about a 6-point lead for Sherrill over Ciattarelli right now. Fairleigh Dickinson University has about a 8-point lead for Sherrill. A Republican-aligned pollster, KA Consulting, which is a pro-Ciattarelli PAC, shows about a 5-point race. So even in the pro-Republican polls, Sherrill is leading over Ciattarelli. The difference between Virginia and New Jersey is it does seem there is still a good percentage of undecided vote left in the state of New Jersey, which means there is that possibility that if everything broke for Ciattarelli heading into Election Day, that Ciattarelli could potentially win this race. Now, I bring that up as a possibility because in 2021, that is essentially what happened, where the early polls, or the polls heading into Election Day, showed Phil Murphy leading over Ciattarelli by about 5, 6, 7 points or so in the final days, and then everything kind of broke for Ciattarelli in the undecided vote, and then essentially ended up being a 3-point race. So that had happened just a few years ago. Now, obviously, this is going to be a different election environment in the state of New Jersey than it was in 2021. President Trump is now president and not President Biden, so that suggests the Democrats should be more favored. However, it is worth noting the Democratic Governor Phil Murphy is not obviously term limited and cannot run again, and his approval ratings are not particularly strong. Most opinion polls show him and President Trump having the same approval and disapproval rating in the state of New Jersey, both being disapproved of, and having an approval around 44-45%, which is certainly not where you want to be for a Democratic incumbent in the state of New Jersey. So it's possible Phil Murphy actually may drag down Mikie Sherrill in this governor's race in New Jersey. It's going to be very interesting to watch, see how this all plays out. But when you look at the map from 2021, and I'll pull it up right here, we saw a very competitive election where Phil Murphy was able to have very close wins in Bergen County, Passaic County, and these are two very key toss-up areas I'm watching very closely on Election Day. There were also big Democratic vote turnout in Hudson and Mercer, where Jack Ciattarelli did very well in a lot more of the suburban rural counties and really ramped the vote in places like Gloucester, Salem, Cumberland, Atlantic, and then up into Hunterdon, Warren, Sussex, and Morris counties. These are all key areas to watch for on Election night for 2025. New Jersey is going to be a very special case. I don't think it's out of the woods for Jack Ciattarelli to win this race, but I do think right now, heading into November, I do think Mikie Sherrill and the Democrats are slightly favored in this race. And right now, I currently have Mikie Sherrill winning it by around 5.5 to 6%, just outside of that leading Democratic ranking and just into likely Democratic. But New Jersey, I think, is certainly more competitive and closer to watch than the state of Virginia is at this time. And New Jersey has the potential to be a very close race and maybe another upset like it almost was in 2021. But I do think the Democrats are certainly favored at this point in time. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you did. Leave a comment below. Tell me your thoughts on this video and any other video ideas you'd like to see from me going forward. Again, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to hit like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in a future video.